Got some blueberries and stuff, making sure I get my calories for the day. It's the morning over here on this side of the world. We got Mr. 3 as part of Cross Guild and stuff. He's wrapped around. Got pretty much the original Buggy Pirates around as well. They know who they're following. There's this interesting part here about Mihawk previously being the Navy hunter once upon a time. And there's also a note. There's also something worth noting on page 9 here, where Mihawk thinks to himself, in terms of distrust for others, we have at least one thing in common already, which can like imply that, you know, part of Mihawk's backstory, that part of the reason he is alone, you know, he basically is a one-man crew before Cross Guild, as a warlord of the sea. He runs it solo, and there's kind of an implication here that it's because there was some bad blood past. I've seen people talk about Mihawk and Shanks having that kind of close connection, and that maybe Mihawk was part of Shanks' crew or something like that at some point, and that could be possible. They definitely appear to have kind of somewhat of a rivalry. I remember early in when Luffy first gets his bounty at the end of the East Blue Saga, Mihawk pays Shanks a visit to be like, hey, I met this kid. You told me about him before. So kind of implies that there used to be a kind of a better relationship between Shanks and Mihawk, and now there's some bad blood for whatever reason. Maybe he learned something about Shanks. Maybe he was kind of like how we'll find out how Buggy feels, where he's like, I thought I was following somebody that wanted to become the king of the pirates. Instead, he's more interested in you know, Buggy's disappointed in Shanks for not becoming king of the pirates, for not wanting to pursue the One Piece, and Mihawk could be kind of in that same vein. And then, of course, there could also be the possibility that we don't know everything about Shanks, and there's something dark or something about Shanks that doesn't sit right with Mihawk, and so he leaves, and to secure his own protection, you know, hunts Navy officers. That opportunity has dried up. He joins Cross Guild, and to what ends, who knows? I think at the moment what he thinks his main desire is to have a peaceful life, something like that. To have somebody challenge him to be the greatest swordsman one day. But again, we'll just have to see. Oh yeah, this is like just a little bit of a flashback of kind of how they met, and basically Buggy owes Crocodile a shit ton of money because the Buggy's delivery service, not exactly the most profitable venture. And I think the Buggy's crew, I think they're pretty much burning money to kind of lift Buggy's like status up. They're investing in the brand. Here, I can't remember this guy. He's like the public relations guy for the Marines, right? This is in page 12 in the top left here. He says he's talking about Mihawk before, like his past as a Navy hunter. And he's talking about the Buggy's delivery service. He says the Navy hunters already have funding from many criminal groups. I'm like, what are some of these other criminal groups? There's a lot of like the underworld in One Piece that we don't really know that much about. I think one thing that can be possibly inferred from these underground groups is that Shanks is involved in those as well as an Emperor of the Sea. And because I think Shanks at the moment appears to be more of like a mediator role and stuff, he's trying to keep the balance between the underworld and pirates, and which is, you know, basically part of the underworld, and the Marines and citizens as well. So if he really is trying to keep a balance of justice in the world in this kind of like unstable time, at least having his toe dipped into the underworld would make sense. And it would kind of explain how he might even have met or known Mihawk back in the day when he was a Navy hunter. But I think in this context, the Marine Public Relations guy is talking about the bounties that Cross Guild and Buggy's Delivery Service is putting on people. They talk about here on the bottom left that Mihawk is a greater skill with the sword than even Red Hair, the Emperor. Which, I mean, the only way you would know that is if they... is the two possibilities. It's assumed because he lost an arm, or the other possibility, which is that they had a duel a long time ago. And it was either a draw, or the winner was Mihawk, and now that Shanks is a one-armed guy, they're like, we'll just give him. Probably not the case for that one, because he's an emperor after all, but... We've recently learned about like the Gods Knights and Garling and all these people that appear to be sword users as well, appear to be extremely powerful. There's a question if the strongest swordsman involves those people, and I don't really think it does, but still to be seen as well. Oh, Cross Guild. And I love that Buggy's an Emperor. It was such a great reveal. And then we go to the Kamabaka Kingdom, or Queendom, on the Grand Line, Paradise side, I believe. And at this moment, Sabo has been framed for murdering King Cobra from the Alabasta Kingdom. and Sabo is reaching out to them through a trail transponder to kind of deliver his important message that he has. He's seen some shit. Right. And we have Shaki, or kind of stated as, they're titled as Shakuyaku right here, who is the former captain of the Kuja pirates 2 years ago. It's like the lady friend of Silver's Rayleigh. And they're paying a little visit to Amazon Lily, where they're going to run into Blackbeard, Seraphim. Well, they already did that. They're doing like a debrief afterwards. And I think Rayleigh kind of correctly points out that at his current age and kind of rust in a head-to-head fight against Blackbeard, he's like, I couldn't win. Which I think is true, but it's also interesting that Blackbeard didn't have that kind of endless like determination and grit that is like known in Luffy, which I think only complements the idea that Blackbeard is a pretty direct foil to Luffy. Even though they kind of connect on a lot of similar themes, Luffy just dives right in, right? Luffy just gets in there and he starts swinging. But Blackbeard, he doesn't really seem too interested in getting his hands dirty if it's not for like a massive upside, or if he feels he's guaranteed to win. And when you're kind of about to swap hands with a legend, even if you know they're rusty and stuff, you're bringing in some kind of weird variables that probably Blackbeard didn't feel like it was worth it for. On the left side and stuff, we have Boa going over how the monster, the Seraphim, the person that they looked like just like Boa when she was a child. And this is basically the first time we hear about the Seraphim and see their power. Oh crap, I just realized this started me at the end of the chapter. So funny. Sorry about that, guys. I was like, this is a weird spot to start, but because it's my Shonen Jump account. Last time I read the chapter, I read the whole thing. Everything I said still stands. Okay, this makes more sense. We get a little bit about why Yamato stays in Wano. Yamato's like, hey, I need to like protect Wano because guys like him are going to attack it, which is true. I mean, I think it's pretty likely that we get Blackbeard going to Wano to try to get his hands on Pluton. That's kind of like the minimal. I don't know how much the world government knows about where Pluton is. They probably at least know where it is, but maybe not exactly how to access it and all that kind of stuff. But I think Blackbeard's ability to use like the tremor fruit is probably like the perfect devil fruit ability to forcibly remove the walls to Wano. Let's see here. I love this moment where Marco says goodbye to Luffy, and he's like, "I'm sure Ace is delighted to see how much you've grown." And it's like, yeah, Ace would be so happy seeing how far Luffy has made it, how close to his dream he is to achieving. Ace died for that very reason. And it's just awesome too, seeing that Marco believes in Luffy and believes in the Straw Hats, just like Ace did. And here's where we actually see the S Snake Seraphim showing off this kind of blend of warlord level abilities plus like Kizaru's lasers and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty insane what these guys can dish out. We get Blackbeard rolling up, ready to... He's just collecting devil fruit powers, right? At this point in his crew, I'm not sure if he's just wanting to recruit more powerful crewmates or if he's seeking a specific fruit for himself. Imagine, like, I'd be curious how Boa's fruit would work with somebody such as Blackbeard, who is a badass dude, but kind of objectively maybe not that attractive. And yeah. How would it work for somebody like him? It doesn't seem particularly useful, but you know, we don't know every detail about every devil fruit. That's okay, but I would be pretty interested to see how that fruit works for an ugly person or just even just a man. Blackbeard is still such a mystery. My feeling is, and I've seen like a Japanese YouTuber talk about this in the past, that the way that he knows how the devil fruits work, or the way how he captures their powers, is if you kill them, like the fruit's reincarnated, right? Now, there's some early scenes in Jaya and stuff where we see the sick doctor guy carrying around like an apple and stuff, and there's maybe a thought that a devil fruit will reincarnate like into a nearby fruit. If you have it like close enough, it'll just go straight to one that's nearby, and then they have the new kind of fresh devil fruit right there. That's something that during like Marineford could be concealed under that sheet that they threw over Whitebeard, and then you just take a bite and boom, you got the devil fruit ability. The other possibility obviously is just something with his Logia ability with the darkness fruit, where he's like a black hole or whatever, that he just absorbs the fruit and then he is able to transfer it to somebody else. And then the big question here is, he talks about wanting that as long as I get those powers, like if he's talking about it for him, the question that becomes more relevant to us for the future is, can each absorb and use 3 fruits at once? And yeah, that'd be kind of scary. And I think the implication could be possibly that He's got a Logia. He's got a Paramecia. Maybe he can get just a third fruit, but maybe it also has to specifically be a Zoan fruit for him to keep a hold of it. Now, the way that he plans things, he probably has this. If that's how it goes, if his plan involves the third fruit, he's gonna have a specific one in mind, and yeah, he probably would want a mythical Zoan, right? Because he wants the baddest, most kind of legendary fruits that are out there. There's an SBS where Oda says that Blackbeard, like if he had a job in the real world, that he would be an archaeologist. He's somebody that, researches a bunch of things into the past, knows a lot of secrets, and when he sees the Seraphim, he's like, whoa, you're kidding me? White hair, brown skin, black wings. He basically knows that these are at least related to Lunarians. And I don't think Lunarians are at all a race that people know in this kind of modern era. But Blackbeard appears to know what that means. And then you can kind of see it on the top right middle panel with the S-Hawk Seraphim, the one that's based off of Mihawk. Like kind of right on his chest, underneath his chin, you can see the P and the start of the X. And Blackbeard knows immediately, PX, like this is a Vegapunk thing. This is related to those pacifistas. And like, is this like a new model of pacifista, which is basically true, and it falls under a Seraphim, which I'm sure he's going to learn about very quickly after leaving this island. We get Blackbeard here. He's got his way, but Boa has already kind of put him in check, turned everybody to stone, and Blackbeard's not quite big enough piece of shit to just sacrifice his crewmates. So this is where Rayleigh shows up. Probably just got done swimming through the calm belt and tossed his clothes back on himself. And he's like, hey, don't do that, man. Blackbeard's like, oh my gosh, this is getting out of hand. Turned everybody to stone. There's this like pacifista thing that whooped everybody's ass. The Dark King Rayleigh showed up. Like, this is a hot mess. I talked about this earlier because I accidentally started on the wrong page like a doofus. But they're kind of just, we kind of get the first ideas here that Kobe traded himself as a pawn for keep Amazon Lily safe, to keep everybody safe. And Blackbeard is planning on using Kobe as a pawn to turn Hachinosu into a world government-backed country, to become king of like a little island. And you know, some people probably think that's where Blackbeard's like ambitions. Some people like in the One Piece world. I don't think anybody in our real world thinks this, but in the One Piece world, people are like, oh, that's what his ambitions have been, right? But Blackbeard's a little sneaky motherfucker. He's almost certainly similar to when he became a warlord. He wants the status as a world government member to access probably Marijois, access the Holy Land, obtain something there. Could also be used to lawfully enter like some of these other countries, but I think it's mostly about getting up to Marijois without having to go through the God's Knights, without having to go through the new Marineford and all that kind of stuff. All right, 1060. Go back to the beginning of the chapter this time. Really cool cover right here with this really kind of masterful use of distance and perspective. Probably one of Oda's like stronger strengths of as an artist. He's talked about in interviews a lot, if you don't know, about how he specifically for his manga has to draw anything alive or anything that moves. And I've read in his art books, his color walks, that he has interviews with other mangakas, that this is because he feels like only he is able to draw his vision of how things are supposed to be moving within the One Piece world. And he's had his assistants try to draw stuff before, and he's like, that doesn't quite look like right. And then he redraws it, and then his assistants are like, ooh, yeah, crazy. But, you know, they help him with the backgrounds and stuff, basically only. And yeah. The other interesting thing I learned from those color walk interviews is the vast majority of his time is coming up with how to present the story. Like, for the most part, he obviously has the big beats of the story in his head, but how to capture the moments in a way that like evokes the feeling of the crew, or evokes the feeling that the people who are in the scene are feeling. It takes him a long time to figure out how to actually draw that in a way, and that he's actually very confident in his ability to draw fast, you know, near the end of a deadline. The most notable time we saw him actually not meet a deadline was during the Kuma backstory, where he actually runs out of time, and so we kind of get panel work and artwork that's a little bit past like half finish, I think. And I think it was challenging for him to draw such like powerful emotional moments. And he talks about in his interview too how for all these really powerful moments, he won't consider the drawing correct for these type of moments unless he is crying while drawing them. He's obviously done that many times. The other artist that he was talking to was specifically talking to him about the I want to live moment with Robin in the middle of the Enies Lobby arc, and because that author asked him like, hey, did you like cry during this, because it's like super powerful imagery. Like, oh yeah, I cried during all of those like kind of big moments. Very interesting. Luffy's dream. I've talked about Luffy's dream a bunch. Luffy knows Sabo didn't kill Cobra, because he knows that Sabo is, you know, he wants to be free. But Luffy also was like, let's go save Vivi. And Zoro, this is kind of like a not the strongest point I think that Zoro makes. He's like, hey, remember Luffy, what did you say when Ace got captured? Because Luffy was like, Ace has his own adventures, he'll be fine. And Zoro's like, okay, well, until he's in like undeniable danger, you let Ace live his own life. Which is like, I mean, maybe, but that didn't end well exactly, Zoro? Not sure if this is the best point. But I think the stronger point is that they just have literally no idea where Vivi is. And more of the recent chapters, they actually get a clue, but they don't. The people that get the clue are not the people that would understand the clue. Oh, how's it going? Nice seeing you again, Abe. We're on the Luffy's Dream chapter right now. So we're like not even at Egghead, but that's okay. I think these chapters are obviously critical and important. Oh, it's late. In India, right? I love that Sabo wants to see the world and write a book about it. That's kind of an interesting point. I haven't really thought about that in a long time. It's when the world does change, you know, when somebody claims the One Piece, if Sabo survives, is he going to be the person that writes the story? He should write it with Usopp. Make it extra flowery. In India, is there like a culture around like getting up kind of like early and starting work and all that kind of stuff, like early in the morning, or do people kind of generally start you know, later in the morning, like 9? I've heard about other places where people get up on the later side. I think Thailand, where my dad spends a good amount of time, kind of describes a lot of the people as start of the day, like staying out late and waking up a little bit late compared to what we do in the U.S. Don't say that everybody survives. Hopefully, the main crew. Oh man, I think in terms of the Straw Hat Pirates and surviving, I mean, the most likely people that I could see dying by the end of the series are Zoro, with all his very close encounters with death. Luffy, who's obviously, you know, literally died already. obviously his wouldn't be until like the very end of the series, and he would have like some big ass smile as he like looks at his dream being actualized. I think that's reasonably likely as well. Obviously, don't hope for it at all. Oh my gosh, so that'd be terrible. But I think Zoro has a little bit of an arc of pushing his dream aside of being the greatest swordsman, or specifically pursuing his dream to become the world's greatest swordsman, to push Luffy forward to his dream. There's a little bit of that going on. I don't think he would like he's not gonna like try to die or anything, but he'll fight to the end for Luffy. He'll take Luffy's place briefly if he needs to, as the kind of like if so facto vice captain. Okay, the younger generation works a lot different. I'm trying to think in the US if I would say that that's true. I think, like, I definitely think that's true in the US as well. Just that a lot of the older generations are kind of sitting in the like salaried, like tenured jobs that have like the best benefits and stuff. A lot of like older people here don't really have hobbies, I would say, and they work past retirement age, even when they have plenty of money, plenty of resources, like stuff that people from my generation and even a generation above mine will never have. This type of money. These people will just work until they're like 80, because they don't have anything that they like to do, because all they did before in their life was work and watch football or whatever. Yeah, I've also thought that I could see Usopp as somebody who writes the story of the One Piece and Luffy's adventure, and obviously inserting himself as various characters. I mean, like, for sure, like, I see like Usopp as somebody who can become like an like a storyteller, like an orator. Once the story's finished off, like, he'll command crowds, right? Maybe he'd be like a great radio host too on the snail transponders. And obviously, I do think that like the flip side of this though is that I think there is a chance that Usopp could die just because of his dream of being a great warrior based from the Viking and Norse culture and mythology, and that if for him to achieve his dream, there's like an interpretation that he kind of has to die fighting in battle, like doing an act of bravery. But you know, we're kind of learning more about that culture and heritage, and that it's not exactly that clear cut. I'm kind of stepping away a little bit from that fan theory or whatever, and watching for now. What is salary? Everything is commission based. Salary in the US is like, you get paid to work somewhere like 40 to 50 or 60 hours a week, depending on the job. and you just get paid like a set amount of money every month, and you don't really have to like meet any type of like sales goals or metrics or anything like that. You just get your money for like doing whatever your job is at the organization. And everybody, that's not something that everybody has, because there's also like hourly work where you just get paid per hour. But salary tend to have better benefits. They tend to have at a lot of places they get like bonuses at the end of the year based off of like their performance in their job, and maybe like pay increases as well, like a permanent salary increase where maybe somebody will be making 50,000 one year, and then the next year if they do well they'll make maybe 55 or 60,000 or something like that. There tend to be, they're like, salary jobs tend to, on average, I think, be like easier jobs, so like desk jobs. But they're also often like doing more work than like a CEO or something in the US, in my opinion. Ooh, maybe Usopp goes back to Kaya home and remembers one of those Usopp pirate kids might want to write a book. I could definitely see something like that too. It's gonna be so crazy. I hope Oda keeps drawing when he's done. I don't think he's. Oh, nobody pays a proper salary. Yeah, that sounds stressful, man. Living under working off of commission. Yeah. There's like a degree of luck involved. There's a degree of, yeah, like this like kind of weird competitiveness. There's this weird like trying to like sell people stuff that they don't need and all that kind of stuff. I don't know anybody in the US that's worked salary and been like, or worked on a commission based job and been like, I love that. People in the US that make commission are like car salesmen and people that sometimes like sell like insurance. It's fairly rare though. And here we get everybody reacting to Luffy's dream, just like generally shocked and like, what the hell did he just say? Like, you know, some people find it hilarious or like amazing. Specifically, Chopper finds it amazing, which Chopper's like the baby of the group. Besides Luffy, Chopper probably has the heart of a child. Yeah, hi Colin. Colin's my real life blood brother. He's currently on the Dressrosa arc, but he's like criminally online enough that he's had most of One Piece spoiled for him. And, you know, my favorite part about this chapter is that Luffy talks about how his dream, like, there's an ending to it, right? That we know in One Piece that dreams are something that are just, like, inherited over and over and over again. But when I think about it, there's, like, I said you're terminally online. You're online a lot. What's interesting about what's interesting about dreams in One Piece in general is it's kind of hard to find anybody that's really achieved their dream. That you're like, I feel like this person has accomplished their dream. Even Roger himself didn't accomplish this dream, because it had to be inherited by Luffy, who now has the exact same dream. And if it came true, Luffy wouldn't have the dream. Ask Dofi. So, like, who in One Piece has had their dream come true? It's like the only one that maybe comes to mind is Whitebeard. But, you know, Whitebeard's dream was to have a family, but ultimately, I don't feel like Whitebeard completely felt like he was able to protect them, and obviously he failed at the very end. So I feel like his dream was maybe the closest or the only one that was like reached actualization. But besides that, I really don't know. Only NL so far has he got the yeah, he's got to the Barth. But I also am like, with NL, I guess the way I kind of see it is like, it wasn't what he expected, right? That what he thought he was looking for, what he thought he wanted, doesn't really seem like he got what he was looking for. And so now, does his dream change, or does he like just not know what to do and he stays out of the story the rest of the time? A little bit of a tough question, I think. Roger kind of achieved his dream. I know what you mean, and I agree that he like kind of did, but at the end of the day, with whatever he saw, read on Laugh Tale, learned on Laugh Tale, you know, Roger was too early to fully realize his dream. And so then he left it to the next generation by starting the great era of piracy, and in a pretty cool way, like, was like, I'm not really worried about my dream not coming true, because there are other people that will go out and pursue this, and that's the story that we follow. Like, Roger's dream is inevitably gonna become true, because, you know, Luffy's gonna be the guy that does it. Oh yeah. Yeah, if NL comes back down, sees that new sauce that Luffy's got, it's kind of funny, like, he kind of really can't do shit down on the non-moon, the One Piece world, because he's kind of just got a hard counter. So if he does want to re-enter the main story, he's basically got to fall in line behind Luffy. And for the majority of the second half, okay, I forgot about this part. They're talking about, Robin's talking about how they got one more road poneglyph to find. Well, Frankie brings it up, and then Robin's like, "Hey, it's not so simple, Frankie. The last poneglyph, you know, no one's been able to find it for a long time, and there's absolutely no clues to his whereabouts." Right before they left Egghead, we get a little bit of a clue, though, from Kid, that they're looking for somebody with the burn scar who is said to be carrying the poneglyph. Could that be one of our friends in the newest arc? Maybe. Yeah, I agree with you that achieving and following your dream are kind of different things. I definitely think that like what makes a lot of people more powerful in One Piece, right? Like where we see like the change in Kobe from like the little like kind of meek boy at the beginning of the story to the badass Marine hero that we know in the more recent times. That one of the big reasons for his change is that he's full force like pursuing his own dream to become a Navy admiral, right? I think it like kind of explains to like Garp and all of them. I think it's the same thing. Like you don't go be punching battleships without a very strong like will and determination driving you forward to have something to pursue. All right. So the five elders here listen in to Saba's call to the Kamabaka Queendom to let Dragon, the Revolutionary Army, anybody who's listening know. It's an open line, right? And Saturn is like Leloucha. Mars is like my word, because it's already been determined that well, let's see. I actually don't 100% know. I thought Eam already decided. But we see, though, in this panel in the bottom left that Emu is listening to this call. That the Marines are saying that's one of the 8 countries that revolted the other day. The perfect place for Sabo to be hiding. I see an unlucky man. No, it is simply destiny. Okay, so based off what the 5 elders are saying, it is Emu already has decided that they're going to use the weapon on Leloucha. And they're kind of referring to him as an unlucky man. To me, this kind of brings up the checkered fate theme of One Piece, where they're like, damn, he could have been there or he could not have been there. It's destiny, right? Sabo claims he's not the one that killed Cobra. He saw something terrible, which is the true nature of the world government, the true identity of the elders, which in terms of like the manga chapters from here forward, I don't think that comes for like another 20 chapters or so. Finds out that there is just like a king of the world just generally as well. That empty throne is not empty. And they see like this dark, like floating object above the clouds. You can't actually see what it is. It just appears as a shadow, and a bright light appears, and as the weapon is activated, all the beams come down, right? And to me, this is like a very direct parallel to when Enel attacks Skypiea. Like if you go back and look at it, it looks very similar. Very, very similar. And now Lelouch has been erased, right? There's going to be that big hole, just like Enies Lobby. There's going to be a massive sea level rise in the world that everybody's going to notice. And that's what puts everybody on notice that things are about to change for good. And then we cut back and we're finally getting to Egghead Island, and this is where the Straw Hats find Bonnie in this enormous warm eddy, and they see a little girl in there. And of course, because Bonnie is a devil fruit user, there's an implication, even at this moment, that Bonnie's true form, when Bonnie is weakened, her true form comes out, which is that of a child, right? Has a massive 320 million berry bounty. And this is kind of where we start the main section of Egghead. Yeah. I think it's true that like people will have questions for like what happened to Lelouch, but they also know that like you can't really talk about it out in the open, or maybe you'll like disappear, or your island will be next, and all that kind of stuff. It's a very big threat, and I feel like Emu just doesn't care. It's like, whatever, be scared. I know that I did it. Know that somebody, the world government, did it. We can just blame it on pirates or something anyways. We can blame it on... Let's blame it on Sabo. Ultimately, at this point of the story, as we kind of like approach like the pivotal time that like Roger was too early for, Emu just kind of doesn't care, right? That's where we're at. Alright guys, my kids are home, so I'm gonna go hang out with them and stuff, but it was fun going through like 3 chapters this morning, and you guys have a good one and stuff. I'll be streaming more, especially on Sunday mornings, but been tired from the holiday season, so I kind of woke up and started late, and I apologize for that, but I appreciate everybody who shows up, and yeah, have a good end of your year. All right, bye.